Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's live on how should parents communicate with their children. So I'll wait for 30 seconds for everyone to join. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining. So as you see, the topic for today's live conversation is how should parents communicate with their children? Now here I would first like to start with this fact actually that when we talk about communication, it should start from home, right? We can have teachers who teach us about communication, but if it rightly starts at home with the parents, then that's where the foundation is built. And as a parent, then when your child grows up, you will not complain that, hey, my child's communication skills are not good. So as a parent, I believe that we all need to take a responsibility that when we are raising our kids, we are putting that foundation in them in terms of we ourselves improving our communication and using certain strategies which we can use to improve the communication skills of our children in our day-to-day life. Okay, so I will start with the first point here. I have total 8 points here which I will discuss, which are regarding how should parents communicate with children. I'll explain one point, one by one, and we'll cover total of 8 points. So thank you for joining and stay tuned till the end. As a parent, I hope that this gives you a lot of insights into what can be done to make the communication skills of your children improve on a day-to-day basis. So first point is understand how your child talks. I repeat, the first point is understand how your child talks. Now what does this mean? You as a parent need to understand whether your child talks more or your child talks less. Now we as parents, because we are parents, we get that intuition with time that our child talks a lot, it just annoys me, he never stops talking. Or we say the child talks very less. So these are two extreme categories. Obviously we have children coming in between the categories where they do talk, right? They talk as they are supposed to. So that is never a problem for the parents. But when we say our child talks a lot, we come to conclusion very quickly. So here we need to understand that if your child talks a lot, how can you channelize his energy in the right direction for him or her to improve his or her communication skills? Now, there are some parents who come and they complain that my child is always blabbering and there isn't anything fruitful that the child talks about. He continuously keeps on talking, but there isn't anything fruitful coming out of his mouth. So in that case, you need to channelize the energy of the child in the right direction. So what you can do is every day or 3 to 4 times in a week, you set aside a time slot of 15 minutes and you make the child practice any random topic, but there is a thing here that random topic should not be anything random out of the blue. You need to start with the topics which are close to the heart of your child. The topics which your child feels passionate about. The topics which your child really likes to talk about. So if your child is interested in playing carom board, basketball, swimming, or doing mandala art, anything, you pick up all those activities, you pick up all those topics related to those activities that the child does on a daily basis, and then the child will be actually feeling better to talk about those topics rather than you as a parent forcing them to talk on any topic. Because see, when we start improving our communication skills, it is very important that we do not force ourselves. If we start forcing ourselves, then we start forcing the children, they don't really enjoy it. So it is very important we choose the topics which are close to the heart of the child. Okay, so this is one thing. If your child talks a lot, you need to channelize the energy of the child in the right direction by making him or her speak the topics which are close to his heart, and you will see how beautifully the time will pass by. The second aspect of this first point is when the child talks really less. Now, this is not the case that I'm discussing when the child talks very less in front of the strangers. There are some cases where the child just intrinsically talks very less at home, even with parents. They just like to be with themselves. In that case, first thing as a parent you need to not do is compare your child constantly on a daily basis and say that you don't talk, tum baat hi nahi karte ho. You see that your neighbor or you see that child who comes in the park, they talk so nicely, why don't you talk? So this is the biggest mistake that we as parents do, that we constantly, every day we are comparing our child and giving examples of those children who speak more, who communicate better. Because if you keep on comparing your child, the child will become frustrated. His or her self-confidence and self-esteem goes down. And even if the child wants to improve the communication skills, he or she will not want to work on it further, because you as a parent are comparing the child every day. So don't lower the self-confidence and self-esteem of the child. As a parent, first of all, accept and acknowledge that, hey, my child speaks less, so what? What's a big deal in it? Because speaking less is just a part of the personality. And I know that my child has more unique points in his or her personality, which we will discover as the child grows by. So there is nothing that I as a parent need to worry about. Speaking less is just a part of personality. I can't force the child every day saying that you need to talk more, you need to talk more. Because every individual has a purpose on this earth. And the purpose is not just fulfilled when you speak more. Right? So you need to recognize and acknowledge and accept first as a parent. And when you as a parent have accepted and acknowledged the fact that your child speaks less, that's okay. Then go and tell the child to acknowledge the fact about the same. So you will go to the child and you will say that, dear so and so, I know that you speak less, and you know why I ask you to speak a little more? Because it is going to enhance your personality. So as and when you will grow up, it will definitely add more vibrant colors to your personality. It will enhance your overall personality. But I do not want you to take pressure and compare yourself to anyone else. You are a champion already. You have many unique qualities which you might not know right now. You might be 6 or 7 years old right now. By the age of 10, 15, you will discover so many qualities in yourself. So I want you to focus on those qualities and nurture them. But I also want to promise that when I as a mom ask you to work on your communication skills and do little or tiny things in your day-to-day life which can help you improve your communication skills, you're going to help me in that process. So we as a team will work together. So the way you as a parent communicate the same thing to the child, that really matters. If you're constantly cribbing and comparing the child in front of the other people and saying that, hey, you don't talk more, this person talks more, मैंने कितनी बार कहा है तुम्हें, बोला करो, you need to talk, this will not work. So we as parents need to be very mindful of how we choose our words, how we choose our tone of voice, and that first we accept and acknowledge that speaking more is important, but it isn't just the part that it is just a part of personality. It is not something that it is a must for you to become a better person in life, right? So you need to nurture other strengths of the child and make him or her realize that we as a team will work together, and you have to promise that you will contribute to your growth. We will work together, but you have to make the child realize that he or she is special already. Right? So this first point we are coming to the end, which is that how as a parent you can help your child improve the communication skills. And that first point is that you as a parent need to understand how your child talks, whether the child talks more or the child talks less. Now coming again to this one particular thing, when the child talks very less at home. There are certain pointers which I reflected upon, and I thought that this can actually make the children speak a little more. So the first point is, make the child sit in a quiet place if you're wanting your child to speak on certain topics. So make the child sit in a quiet place. Why I say quiet? Because if there is a lot of distraction, then definitely it's not worth the time of the child to improve his communication skills, because obviously he's not already speaking more and then he's getting distracted by various things. So first, choose a quiet place for the child to sit and then practice. Second, make the child sit down. Don't say that, hey, come here today, for 15 minutes we'll practice. So you are standing here, your child is standing there. So this really doesn't work. Now, why I say this is because children who do not speak more, they're already very nervous. And when we ask them to stand, and it looks like they are being targeted, and it increases their nervousness even more. So for that, we need to make sure that we ask the child to sit down and then speak, right? So first is select a quiet place. Second, sit down. Third important point, wherever you are in your house, you have a lot of objects around you. Pick up any object. It could be a flower, it could be a flower pot, it could be any decorative item. You could talk about the sofa, you could talk about the curtains. Pick up any object and ask the child to just speak on it, express his thoughts on it. Now, when you ask the child to express his thoughts on it, fourth point that you need to remember is, do not be in a rush. That quickly answer, you can't say this to the child always, because again the child is nervous, the child needs time to think. So give enough time to the child to think on that topic. But you as a parent need to keep quiet for some time and let them come up with their own points. If you think that you have given 1 minute to the child and still he is not speaking and he's saying, oh, let me think, and he's thinking, give 1 more minute, give 3 minutes. But give enough time and don't pressurize the child that अब तो बहुत देर हो गई है, you are not speaking, अब तक तो कोई point आ जाना चाहिए था. That pressure should not be created. Okay? And coming to the end of this, one very important point is that when you are asking the child to sit down, think about a particular object, and you are selecting a distraction-free environment for the child to speak on a certain topic, and you're giving enough amount of time. One thing that you need to remember is, take the name of the child a lot of times. So address the child by their name. Don't forget to take the name, because when you take the name of the child feels valued, the child feels more nurtured, and they think that, hey, mama or daddy is actually focusing on me and wanting me to work on certain things. So they feel special, because the name of any person is special to that person. So it's very important that you keep on taking the name of the person on the constant basis, and in this case it is the name of your child, right? So these are the pointers that I would like you to focus on, that when you want your child to improve the communication skills, especially if your child speaks really less. Now, coming on to the second point. Second point that you as a parent can do is understand the mood patterns and the communication patterns of your child. I repeat again. The second point is understand the mood patterns and the communication patterns of your child. What does this mean? You as a parent need to understand, when is my child's mood really nice during the entire day? When does my child feel like or feels happy to communicate? You have to be very vigilant about this point. Okay, so understand the mood patterns and the communication patterns of your child. Let me give you an example. Now, you as a parent will find out in a certain duration of time whether your child likes to speak early in the morning when the child wakes up, or the child likes to speak when the child is having breakfast on the table, or the child likes to speak when you are dropping the child off to school, or the child likes to speak only while he comes back from the school and then he is in a good mood. Okay, so you need to understand that what is the mood pattern of your child and when does your child like to interact more. Now if you as a parent feel very energetic in the morning and you are like, you're doing all your morning rituals, and then you wake up your child and you are like, okay, now let's speak something, why aren't you smiling, or why aren't you interacting? So you can't force your mood pattern on the child. You need to understand what is the mood pattern and the communication pattern of the child. So with time you will realize that suppose my child doesn't like to speak early in the morning. As soon as he wakes up, he likes to be very quiet. Even after he brushes his teeth, he doesn't like to speak more. Now when he's having the breakfast, after having half of his breakfast, I know that he starts feeling energetic and his mood changes. That's when he starts interacting a little more. So you as a parent need to be very vigilant of this fact and start utilizing those points when you start communicating more with your child. Now if the child does not interact during the breakfast time also, so you know that I go and drop off my child to school in the car, and that's when, when I cross this particular point in the car and we reach this place, that's when my child becomes really excited seeing this point out of the window. So I can utilize this opportunity to strike a conversation with my child and he'll be more excited to speak and share his views, right? So this could be done. Or that during before he reaches the school, he doesn't like to talk. He likes to talk only when he comes back from the school, and that's when he feels that, oh, now the school is over, now I am feeling great. So you utilize that opportunity instead of forcing the child to speak in the morning. So this is very important. You can't force your mood patterns on the child. You need to understand the mood patterns of the child and then ultimately pick up those clues, pick up that time duration when your child is active, and then communicate that way with your child. Okay, so these are certain pointers that I wanted you to take in mind as a parent. The first is you need to understand whether your child talks more or child talks less, and then I discuss certain pointers based on that. And the second is you need to understand the mood patterns and the communication patterns of your child, and we just discussed that. Now coming on to the third point. The third point here is you as a parent should avoid giving lectures, right? So I am just saying avoid giving lectures because I know that you can't ignore it altogether. You can't ignore giving lectures altogether because that's your duty as a parent. Sometimes you need to rebuke the child and make him come on the right path by giving lectures. So that's completely okay. But that should not be a habit. Now there are three very important pointers under this which I want you to note down. That when you are giving lectures, please take care of three things: the time, the place, and your choice of words. When you are giving any lecture to your child, mind the time, mind the place, and mind your choice of words. Now when I say mind the time, time means you need to be aware that right now I need to have a difficult conversation with the child. And within half an hour we are going for a party. So if right now I am going to lecture my child on certain thing that happened before, his mood is going to get spoiled and then he might not want to go to the party with me, right? So if you can recognize this thing, then you will say, okay, let me postpone giving that lecture right now. Once we come from the party, then I will speak to my child, right? Or that it is dinner time and you want to have a conversation with your child on a very difficult matter, right? It involves certain lecturing from your end, but you know that it is dinner time. So if I talk to my child right now, his mood might get spoiled and he will stop eating the dinner also. Again, it is going to create a vicious cycle. The entire mood of the family will be spoiled. So if you can recognize this fact, you can postpone that discussion to a later time. So it is very important that we as parents are mindful of the time when we are communicating with our children, right? Especially when we are giving lectures. And when we give lectures, when do we give that? When there is a difficult conversation to be made, right? So yeah, this is about the time. Now the second thing is about place. Okay, be very mindful of the place where you give lectures to your child or you correct the child. Now there are certain children who do not like to be corrected in front of even their siblings, let alone their friends. They don't like to be corrected in front of their siblings. They don't like that you say anything to them if their grandparents are sitting. So if the child is sensitive in this regard, then I would recommend that be very mindful of this. Always go to a separate place where it's a privacy for you and your child, and then have that discussion. Because that will not make the child embarrassed, and the child will actually listen to you. And that's your purpose as a parent, right? That the child listens to you. So don't start screaming on the child or start giving lecture wherever you are. You need to look whether my child is that much sensitive or not. If the child is sensitive, go to a different place, a private place, and then have a conversation. Because some children really do not like to be corrected in front of their siblings, their uncles and aunts, and even their grandparents. So that was about the place. And the third thing is choice of words. This is my favorite point, choice of words. Now see, suppose I am a parent and I need to correct the child, right? I have to give that instructions to the child, and I want to give the lecture to the child. Now what does choice of word mean? This means that I as a parent will be very careful of the words I choose. Instead of the negative vocabulary, I will start using the positive vocabulary. Now, in our day-to-day lives, we are very used to saying that don't do this or don't go out of the house. We usually say like that. But this looks like a very simple sentence, but this actually is a very negative statement. Don't go out of the house. Every day we are saying this, right? We use this dictionary of don't very often in our day-to-day conversation as parents. So we need to correct this dictionary and move on to the more positive ones. So what we can do here, instead of saying don't go out of the house, you can use the positive vocabulary and say that please stay inside the house because it is raining outside. We will go when it stops raining. So instead of saying I am not going outside with you right now, it's raining. No, don't use the negative vocabulary, use the positive one. So in this case you can say that please stay inside because it is raining outside. Once it stops raining, we will go outside, right? Now let me take the second example. Suppose there's a mopping going on in your house and someone is cleaning the floor, and your child comes from outside after playing and they try to bring in their dirty shoes, and you're like, no, don't bring this, just stay outside. So what happens is when we start our conversation with no, don't come inside, or we shout like that, this actually becomes our habit. You know, it is not just about using don't or negative words. It is like, since our childhood, our subconscious is wired in the same manner, that we as parents keep on using the negative vocabulary, and the same vocabulary gets fed in the mind of the child. So we need to be very careful and mindful that we start using the positive vocabulary. So instead of saying that don't come inside right now, can't you see that the floor is getting cleaned? Don't say like this. You can just say please stay outside for 5 minutes, the floor will get dry and then you can come outside. So it's a very soft transition from negative to positive vocabulary, and it is really effective. This might look like a very small change in the approach, but it actually works wonders. It is about how we rewire our subconscious mind to stop using the negative vocabulary and start using the positive ones. So this was about avoid giving lectures, the third point as parents. But when you are giving lectures, be mindful of the time, the place and the choice of words. Okay, now let me go on to the fourth point. The fourth point is active listening. What is the fourth point? The fourth point is we as parents need to listen actively. Now, when we talk about communication, we feel that communication means just speaking. But communication is much more than just speaking. It also means listening to the other person. It also means that we ask questions to the other person. It also means that we give time to the other person to share their answer. It also means that we show through our body language that yes, we are listening to you. So it means a variety of things. It just does not mean that we open our mouth and we start speaking, right? So what most parents do is that either they don't listen to their child, or when they listen very half-heartedly. Because I do understand that we have a very busy lifestyles, and now both the parents are working. So they get very little time to spend with their children. And when the child wants to share something about their day, mom or dad will already have so much of work that they will listen, but they usually listen half-heartedly. And while they are doing their work, they are not even making eye contact with the child, and the child just says something, and the mom will say okay. So the child is here and the mom is looking here. So what happens as a result of it? It is not an active listening. We are not listening really to our children. So in that case, we can do 3 things to become an active listener as a parent. First of all, we need to make eye contact with our children, be it for just 1 minute. But if you think that your child is really curious and excited to share about his or her day with you, then please make that eye contact with your child. Even if you have loads of work in the kitchen, or you have something to do on your laptop, just spare that 1 minute, just 1 minute. Okay, tell the child that, see, I'm already working on it, but you tell me, what do you want to say? Okay, I have 1 minute to listen to you. And then make that eye contact with the child. That is really important. So eye contact is very important. Second thing, how we can become active listeners is by nodding our head. Okay, so we need to nod our head when our child is speaking to us. Now what happens is, most of the times we are involved in so many activities that when we listen half-heartedly, we are making eye contact, but nothing on our face changes. So let me just show you a demo here. So it will be like and then we will do something, here, we will look here, the child is speaking to us here. So what happens is, we do not change our facial expressions. We do not show as parents that yes, I am listening to you, I'm excited to listen to you. We don't show that. And the other thing is, we don't nod our head. We just say acha, theek hai, okay. So what happens is, when we don't nod our head, we don't show our willingness to listen to the child. So it's a small change that we can do in our non-verbal communication, which is like nodding the head. Now see, if you nod the head this much and you nod it like this, there's a lot of difference, and children pick up these small differences. It really makes a difference in the life of the child. So you can nod your head. And third point of being a great listener as a parent is avoid any sort of distraction. I know that distractions cannot be avoided 100% because we have a very busy lifestyle, right? We are constantly working with technology or doing our household chores at the same time and taking care of the children. That is completely understood. But when we are communicating with our children, it's very important that for that little duration, we remove all the distractions. Okay, if you're holding a phone in your hand, then instead of looking at the phone and then talking to your child, अच्छा और बताओ और क्या हुआ स्कूल में, okay, ठीक है, आपने होमवर्क कर लिया. So what we do is, when we talk to the child like that, we are actually looking in the screen, right? Child does not feel valued. So it is very important to remove the distractions. Distractions remove करना हमेशा important इसलिए है because we need to make the child understand that we value you and we value what you have to share with us. And when they feel that confidence in us as a parent, they share more things. So that's about active listening, right? So till now, we have shared 4 points. The first point Can anyone tell me what was the first point? If you're still there, if you joined in the beginning of the session. Okay, those of you who have just now joined, I will reiterate the points. The first is understand how your child talks, whether the child talks more or the child talks less. Second, understand the mood patterns and the communication patterns of your children. Third, you need to be an active listener as a parent. And fourth, you need to avoid giving lectures, but when you give lectures, be mindful of the time, place, and your choice of words. Okay, so I've discussed all of this in detail. I'll go on to the fifth point right now. Yeah, so I have also made my notes. It's very important to always keep your notes ready so that you don't forget anything. Right, yeah. Let me move on to the fifth point for today. So the fifth point is, as a parent, use door openers. Yes, you heard it right. As a parent, use door openers. Now see, we have a door at home. It has a handle, right? We pull the door towards ourselves and it opens. So why is door there inside our house? So that we can come inside the house or we can go inside the house. We can take entry inside the house or we can exit the house, right? That is the purpose of the door. So similarly, when I say as a parent use door openers, this means that you as a parent need to use those phrases in your communication which encourage the child to speak more. So door openers are those phrases which you can use in your communication and it will actually encourage the child to speak more, right? So some examples of door openers are, wow, very nice. That's really interesting. Wow, really? I didn't know about this. You are telling me for the first time. Interesting to know. Wow, this is great. Super. Now what happened in all these cases? I use the terminology like wow, really, super, that's amazing, that's interesting. I didn't know about this. You're telling me for the first time. So this helps to build rapport with your child. And this shows that you as a parent are really encouraging the child to speak more. So you could also say in the door openers as, tell me more. So if your child is sharing something, some story about his school and he stops after 2 sentences, as a door opener you can just say, tell me more. Now when you say tell me more, this shows that you as a parent are interested to listen to the child. So the child will think of more incidents from school and will narrate the entire story to you. Right? So as a parent, it is our duty that we use door openers because these are the phrases which encourage the child to speak a little more. Now, after that, the next point is use your non-verbal communication very wisely. Use your non-verbal communication very wisely. Now, we think that just because we are giving our time to our children and we are talking to them, that's enough. But sometimes that's not enough. Even if you're not talking to the child and you're really busy, both the parents are busy, what we can do as parents is, at least at the end of the day when the child is going to sleep, give that one hug to your child. That feeling of touch is very important for the child and that will help you remove all the guilt. So if you as a parent feel that today I had a really hectic schedule, I had meetings all throughout the day and I had to cook food for the entire family and still I'm sitting on the laptop and now it's the time for my child to sleep, I couldn't really interact with my child, that's completely okay. But once your child is going to sleep, just give that warm little hug to your child and that will do wonders. So not just speaking, but that non-verbal communication is very important in helping the children improve their communication skills. Because when they understand that this hugging or any sort of non-verbal format is also there which my parents use to express their love towards me, they understand the importance of it and they start using it in their daily lives. Because what parents do, children mimic that. So it's very important that we understand that it's not just about speaking, but it's about using our non-verbal communication. Non-verbal means when we are not using our mouth to speak. It's about using our non-verbal communication to improve our communication and relationship with our child. Now, the next point, the last point that I would like to talk about is, as a parent, encourage the child to come up with the stories. Okay, as a parent, encourage the child to come up with the stories. Now, what happens is, suppose your child, stayed in school and came at 2 p.m. and started sharing something with you. Some children are very good at expressing themselves in the form of narrating the stories, while some, they need that push, or they know that what happened in the school, but they're not able to articulate their words really nicely, and they're not able to come up with a very concrete story in front of their parents. So as a parent, how you can help your child improve your communication skills? By helping the child to weave the story and help him complete the story. Now suppose if I am the parent and my child is telling me something about the basketball match that happened in the school. Now the child has everything inside his mind. There's a complete vision in front of him and he can share all of that. But some children, they don't really know how to express it. They fall short of words. They are like, Mama, aisa hua tha school mein, but they're not able to come up with proper sentences. In that case, you can help the child build up the story by giving them clues about the next sentence that they can use in their story. For example, you can help the child with 4 W's and 1 H. You can help the child with 4 W's and 1 H. Now 4 W means what, why, where and when. Okay, 4 W's means what, why, where and when. So if suppose you think that your child is telling you any story about the basketball match that happened in the school, and now the child is falling short of words. So what you as a parent can do is, you can give clues to the child and ask questions using what. You can give clues to the child and ask questions using why, ask questions using where, and ask questions using when. Some of the examples could be, so what happened after you had that goal, right? What happened? So when you're talking to the child, you can come up with a question that starts with what, then why. You can ask a question like, why did you play basketball today? I know that you're very fond of football. Why did you choose to play basketball today? So this could be a question related to why. Then the third question could be related to when. Okay, so here you could come up with a question like, when was the first time in your life you realized that you like playing basketball? When was the first time in your life that you realized that you like playing basketball? So this is the question related to when. So what, where, when and why. So the question related to why could be, why did you play only for 5 minutes today? Why did you play for 30 minutes? Because the entire lecture is for 30 minutes. So you could come up with these questions related to 4W, and you will see how beautifully the child will have answers to all of this. Now with time, your child will realize that, okay, if my mom is asking me questions on what, why, where and when, that means the answers to these questions exist. Now when the answers to these questions exist, the children become habituated of thinking in the same direction. So the next time when they come to you to discuss any story, they will be able to come up with more creative and vivid ideas, because you as a parent have been helping the child to come up with ideas by asking the questions. So what, why, where and when. The fifth one is, you ask the questions related to how. So 4W and 1H. So a question related to how could be, in this specific example that I'm discussing, how did you do that goal? Or how did you win at the end? Right now, as you describe me the entire story, your team scored really less points. So how actually did you win the entire match? So when you ask all of this, the child's brain or thinking or creativity expands, and the child starts thinking in a different direction, and this helps them to build up and weave stories in their daily life. And when the children know how to weave stories, that's when they can start to communicate better, right? So yeah, so this was all about all the points that I shared with you, right? There is one last point, and that's my favorite point. So the favorite point that I wanted to share with you is, most of the times we as parents think that when we are communicating with our children, we need a special time, place, and the child and I should be facing each other, and then we should be talking. But let's understand that, as I mentioned in the previous example, that eye contact is really important when we are talking to the child, but it is not the case always. Sometimes when you need to have a difficult conversation with your child, it is okay that you do not make the eye contact, and that's the best option. Because when you are having a normal conversation, at that time when you make eye contact, it is like you are building up your own confidence and asking the child to build up the confidence by making the eye contact. But when you want to have a difficult conversation, in that case I would recommend avoid eye contact. So whenever you're doing these kinds of activities where there is no eye contact, you at that time you can have the difficult conversations. For example, you and your child are skipping the rope together, okay? So skipping the rope is actually a very strenuous work, so let's take something else. You're exercising together. So you are standing here, the child is standing here, and both of you are looking in the front direction. You're not making eye contact with each other. So while you're exercising, you can come up with any topic that you always wanted to talk to your child about, and the child was hesitant to talk about it initially, but now as you're not making the eye contact, you are looking in this direction as parent, and the child is looking here, the child will be able to give you answers. Because there are certain topics that the children avoid talking about, they feel embarrassed to talk about, right? So they hesitate, they don't come up with an open mindset to discuss it with parents. So that's when it's the parents' duty to realize that, okay, if we are doing any activity, like when we are exercising together, or when I'm driving and the child is sitting on the next seat, or when we are baking together, I'm teaching the child how to bake a cake, so I'm standing here, the child is standing here. That's when you both are not making any eye contact. So that is the ideal situation where you can start to have a difficult conversation. Because remember, eye contact is important, but sometimes it intimidates the children when the topic of conversation is a little difficult for them and they feel embarrassed to talk about it. In that case, it is very important that we let go of the eye contact, and when we are driving the car, or when we are exercising together, or when we are baking the cake together, or when we are watching television together but we are not making eye contact, that's when you can bring up the topic that you would like to discuss with your child, right? So that's about all these pointers. I will quickly repeat all these pointers which I talked about. The first point that you as a parent can do to improve the communication skills of your child is understand how your child talks. Second, understand the mood patterns and the communication patterns of your child. Third, avoid giving lectures, but if you give lectures, be very mindful of the place, time, and the choice of words. Then fourth point is that you be an active listener by making eye contact, nodding your head, and by removing all the distractions. The next point is that you use your non-verbal communication, especially like touching the child or hugging the child, especially at the end of the day if you're not able to speak much, because that is also a very good form of communication. And the next point that we talked about is use door openers. Door openers are those phrases which you use so that you encourage the child to speak a little more. And next point was you encourage the child to come up with the story building. So always encourage the child to speak stories, and if they're falling short of words, use the methodology of 4 W's and 1 H, so that they have enough matter to talk about the stories. And when the children learn how to speak stories, that's when they improve their communication skills. And the last thing that I discussed was, in order to have a difficult conversation with your child, don't force the child to have eye contact with you. just go with the flow. Whenever you're doing any activity where you both are not making eye contact, that's the right time when you can bring up the conversation, and your child who was hesitant to speak on that topic or to share that thing with you before will actually open up more. Because when you're making eye contact, it's kind of intimidating, but when you're not making eye contact, it is not that intimidating. So these were the pointers. So if you joined late and you missed out on these pointers, you can go through the video again, and I've discussed all these pointers in detail. So any questions here from anyone? If you have any specific questions regarding, if you're a parent and you find it difficult to improve the communication skills of your children, you can ask any question here. Otherwise, I can end the session. So no questions as of now. Okay, thanks to everyone who joined the session. You took out your valuable time and tuned into the session to listen to these points. If you were not able to attend the session in a continuous go, I would recommend you to go through it again, because these pointers, they might look simple, or you might feel like, okay, let's ignore this, how our life is going, how I'm communicating with the child, that's happening on a regular basis, it's fine, I'll go with that. But these small things, if we bring that small changes in our communication patterns, that's how those small changes start to affect our children positively, and that's how they pick up good communication patterns from their parents. So when we talk about building up or improving our communication skills, it all starts from the very beginning at home. Okay, so school is different, but if we as parents are able to understand that how we can communicate better with our children, that's how the children will get the right clue at the right moment from all of us, and it will in turn improve their communication skills on a day-to-day basis. So I'll end the session now. Thanks everyone for joining, and have a great day. Thank you.